October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe, we're proud to stand with the survivors, the fighters, and the families who inspire us every single day. And while we honor their strength, we're also helping you with the strength to save with special dealer offers. Like a new Ford F-150 XLT, save with 3.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new Ford Bronco Sport, lease for just $399 a month at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome in to another live episode of the Pit Press Live. I am your host tonight, Eric Moulton, and I am lucky enough to be joined by co-host and part owner of the Pit Press, Mr. Nick Nunez. Nick, how you doing tonight?
Eric, doing well, man. It's great to be with you. Looking forward to breaking down some Mountain West basketball. We got some really good guests, and the season is right around the corner, man. I know it's just an exhibition on Thursday, but the games start next week, and just can't wait.
Yeah, no, it's exciting time. We were just talking backstage with our next guest who I'll bring on. We got an interesting episode going live right now. We're actually going live to the Pit Press Live Twitter account. We're also live on the Lopes Radio on Brennan Williams' Twitter page too. So kind of promoting a dual show kind of at the same time. I think it's appropriate to start jumping into more Mountain West hoop talks. But before we kind of get started, I just want to pay some credit to where it's due. Definitely our sponsors, Affordable Solar, Capitol Ford. We definitely appreciate them for what they do for helping us kind of kick this off. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. All the way from Phoenix, from Lopes Radio, owner, creator, and I'm not sure what else to call you, Brennan. Brennan, thanks for joining the show tonight, man. How you doing?
Of course. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Doing great. Last time I was on, it was lawyers, it was realignment, it was all that sort of stuff. And like we were saying, we are so happy to be past that. We've got a little bit of basketball coming our way here pretty soon. So, yeah, exciting time of the year. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll jump into a lot of different things. GCU had an exhibition against USC, which was on the Mountain West Network over the weekend. I think UNLV is actually playing on the Mountain West Network right now too. So I'll be as we speak. So I kind of want to check that out after we wrap up here. But for our listeners here at the Pit Press, I know that you have your own followers, but Can you kind of give us a rundown of what Go Lopes Radio is, kind of the inception of it, where the idea came from? Go ahead and kind of pump up your site a little bit.
Well, thanks. Yeah, guys. So I've always been around since I went to school. Started in 2012 at GCU, graduated 2016. Worked at GCU. Obviously, followed the team, heavily invested. And there's been different stages, right? There was the D2 stage. There was the D1 stage. We could just call it what it is, the D1 stage with Thunder Dan Marley. Didn't get to the tournament. And then obviously COVID into Bryce Drew. After COVID, GCU really, I think they really made a commitment with the next coach they were going to bring in to heavily invest in this thing, being GCU basketball. And was obviously an exciting thing as a fan. And so as GCU kind of grew and it invested into it, I found myself just wanting that kind of connection, right? More content around the Lopes. And I just had one moment where I was like, why don't I stop asking for it? Why don't I just do it myself? And so I started Go Lopes Radio essentially at the start of last season, a few games into last season. Just wanting some extra content and a community to connect with other Lopes. So yeah, we've got podcast, we've got video, we've got some written form, we've got a message board for GCU fans literally all across the nation that connect on there. And we talk everything GCU basketball, but also some of the other athletic sports as well. So we've got a little bit of Jacob Wilson talk on the A's, made a little run for the batting title this year in the American League, which is good stuff. But yeah, so we cover everything in there. It's just good to connect with other Lopes fans, talk more Lopes basketball because it's growing. And obviously this transition to the Mountain West, it's been very apparent, just the investment and the excitement going on there. So excited to cover it. I'm learning by the day. As you guys said the same thing when you guys kind of started yours, like it's just learning by the day. And so, it's been really, really fun.
Well, congratulations. And I don't think there's anyone more excited than you for the Lopes to be joining the Mountain West at the time that it is. But I will make sure to, after we wrap up the show, to link your Substack in the description in our YouTube channel. Guys, please check it out. It's free content. Brendan spends a lot of time. You actually had a really nice written piece, and we'll just kind of start with some questions here. But we were not fortunate enough to make Mountain West Media Days, but you were there. Yeah. You actually covered it. How did that go, man? What was your first taste of the Mountain West like?
Yeah, well, it's crazy because that's kind of my first event-ish, kind of like that. Obviously did press conferences, all sorts of stuff last year. So this was totally new territory. So I don't want to say there's a little anxiousness that comes with it, but especially once everybody starts coming out and they're going through the stations, the players and the coaches, their availability, it's like, I got to get every video. I've got to get and eventually kind of, I don't know, an hour in, I thought, you know what, let's just be a little more thoughtful, take a deep breath. And I started really just kind of observing and being around and like having conversations with people. One of those people, recent guest on the podcast, Rocco Miller, who actually came to a GCU game last year, got connected with him. We actually grew up really close to each other in Western Washington. So glad to be the next guy on the show after Rocco to talk some college basketball.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, we did enjoy, I will say we did enjoy a few cold beers as well after the media days, talking hoops. So that was really cool as well. But yeah, I did a lot of just analyzing and observing, got to speak with some of the players and some of the coaches, and the Mountain West, just first class all the way. You know, GCU, the former conference, you know, I guess we can call it out, but the media day was actually virtual, and you know, there wasn't a lot of infrastructure with the conference. This is totally just a completely different beast. It feels big, feels serious, incredible access to everybody. I mean, it was a little surreal, right? You got, you know, legendary coaches and could be some really good players that could be playing in the NBA next year, access to get to talk with them. And so I think the coolest thing that I came away from it sounds a little corny, but you know, you spend some time around the players, you forget, I think, as the money and the NIL, all this stuff happens, you just see the players and you forget, like, these guys are in college, you know, and it is kind of like, it gives you some context, especially if you look at GCU's exhibition game, which we can talk about a little bit later, but you forget, like, these are 18 to 22 year olds, you know, maybe 23, 4-year-olds. And so I think you get that context when you're there. You know, I remember I was around the Utah State players, and they're, you know, they're kind of known to post TikToks and all that sort of stuff, but they're just laughing, having a good, and you forget, like, these guys are in college, like, they're just really good at playing a sport. But, you know, I think when you have that context as a media person it's really cool to know, these guys are figuring out how to play basketball. They're figuring out how to live life and grow as a person. And I think when you have that context, it's pretty cool. So took in a lot. I mean, got to see all the players, the coaches, and it just felt really, really big and felt like kind of the official kickoff to college basketball.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I think one thing I took away from my first media day was how close some of these players are off the court, how close some of the coaches are. They're like, and they're friends, and their families are friends. And you could just see like they've competed against each other for how long, right? Like the players, some of them 4 years, some of them 3 years, but they're just so acclimated.
Even going
to
back
each
to
other.
high school, right? Some of them even played against each other in high school, AAU, and they develop relationships there. Yeah.
So really cool stuff. But I do want to jump into more kind of the X's and O's talk. This is kind of what I like talking about, like what Nick likes talking about. But GCU played a really competitive game in an exhibition against USC. They did fall 67-61, but that's a really stacked USC team. They've got a lot of good players coming in, those transfers. Musbus, who we're also familiar with when he spent some time in the Mountain West. But what was your overall, I mean, when you analyze the game from like your perspective as a media member, what was your general take on the GCU's performance?
Yeah, gosh, it's so weird because you forget, especially I just talked about all the like different stages of GCU basketball, right? Like the idea that I would kind of have things or nitpick or feedback if you just told me 10 years ago GCU hosts USC and loses by 6 at home, and it didn't, I don't know, it didn't go great or whatever. It's stuff that'd blow my mind, right? That'd be crazy. So I think it's reflective of where GCU is now as a program to have gotten to a point where they cannot play well, from what I saw. And, I'll provide some more context on that in a sec. But against USC, a really good team with a bunch of really good players, literally NBA size on the court. They have Gabe Dines that comes in off the bench who's 7'5". I mean, truly insane just to see a 7'5" guy, and especially the way he moves. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of areas for improvement. I think, I wrote I did a little podcast after the game, just talked about this team is going to take a little bit of time. I think maybe a little bit similar to you guys, right? There's newness. GCU returns 5 to 8% of its production. It's going to take time. And, we just talked about how these guys are also becoming friends and molding together. Like that also has to happen. So X's and O's wise, there were some things absolutely could nitpick. We can get into that in a little bit, but I think my macro takeaway is just a little bit of patience to get this stuff rolling. Like these guys have not played together. They played together for a few months, but even the NCAA limits a little bit of that. So I don't know. I think that's my macro takeaway, is just giving this a little bit of time, this group a little bit of growth. But, I definitely think they have some things that you can kind of look at and say, wow, that's got to get better. And Bryce even talked about that, right? That's not even necessarily just my opinion. So, we'll see. Obviously, they open up against IPFW, who, around 200 ranked, depending where you look on the different data sites. So not a crazy test, but I think is good to just maybe get their bearings underneath them when they actually open up in the regular season. To not be playing a Baylor or a USC like they did in both their exhibition games, I think will give them an opportunity to blend a little bit more. Yeah.
Nick.
Brennan, wanted to ask you about one of the newcomers to GCU. I know you guys got 10 of them this season. One of them is somebody that or Mountain West fans should really be familiar with, guard Jaden Henley, who's kind of had an up and down preseason, right? I think he scored 28 against Baylor about a week ago and then struggled a little bit against USC, 6 turnovers, didn't shoot well from the field or the free throw line. I think I heard that Coach Drew's trying to use him as a point guard this year. Just tell us how you think his fit is at the point guard position.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think he can do it. I think there's going to be stretches where it makes sense. I think I think the first 2 games, he was handling the ball a ton. Even at Baylor, he had a little bit more success with Baylor. He still had some turnovers. But USC, he definitely struggled. Like there's no way around it. Bryce even talked about it. Poor shot selection, poor decision-making. And I think when you're handling the ball, right, there is a responsibility that comes with that. And so I've been shocked at how aggressive he's been in these first 2 games. I didn't necessarily see that, but the aggressiveness, I think there's a version of it that's great. As for a full-time point guard, I'd be a little concerned's not the word. I do think maybe getting Brian Moore Jr. a little more involved, the transfer from Norfolk State, mid-major player of the year last year, makes a lot more sense to me than having Henley handling the ball like that. Listen, exhibition games, they could be, trying stuff out, figuring it out on the fly. They returned Mekhi Williams, who was put on some weight. He looked pretty good in the exhibition, so I'm wondering maybe if he gets a little bit more run. As for a full-time point guard, I would have said before the season, pretty hesitant. We saw the UNLV stuff, how up and down it was once he got those car keys after Dayton Thomas was injured. So it was mixed bag there. And I think maybe after the Baylor game, you're like, okay, maybe we see a few more minutes of this a game. After USC, I don't know. I think you could see it a little bit. As for a full-time point guard, he didn't make great decisions. I talked about it, and it sounds really rough, but he played 25 minutes because I think he hit his head and had to go get checked in the locker room. So in 26 minutes, he had 8 missed shots, 6 turnovers, and 5 missed free throws. So, if you divide the free throws by 2, that's 2 possessions. The 6 turnovers, that's 8, and 8 missed shots. That's 16 possessions, right? That I hate to say, got thrown away, but in 25 minutes, that can't happen, especially if you're a point guard or handling the ball like he was. So lots of improvement there, but I don't know what we'll see come game 1. I mean, I think they'll run that same 5-man lineup, but I'm just wondering if maybe they pull him back in a little bit because the decision-making wasn't great against the USC team.
We're speaking with Brennan Williams of Go Lopes Radio, talking some GCU basketball. Brennan, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the GCU front court this year.
Yeah.
The Brown transfer, Nana Owusu Anane.
Nailed it.
Second team all Ivy League at Brown 2 years ago, was hurt last year. And then you got the big freshman, Efe Demiral, player from Turkey.
Yeah.
Those guys, I guess, struggled a little bit offensively. I actually listened to your podcast, Go Lopes Radio, your breakdown of the scrimmage. And you kind of talked about a little bit how he struggled from the field, but he rebounded the ball tremendously. And that's the forward, Nana Owusu Anane. But just tell us a little bit about how this GCU front court looks.
Yeah, I think really quick first to go back, I want to make sure I go back to Henley. I'm really excited about what he brings to the table and the potential for him to get out in space. I think I'd love to see that a little bit more. I know I sounded a little harsh on him. I love Jaden Henley. I've been very surprised by his play, and I think he's going to be a big part of this team and his development and everything. So excited about him. I know I sounded a little negative earlier, but yeah, Nana is a generational motor sort of guy. I mean, like hard hat, whatever metaphor you've got, he is your guy. He went to a really big kind of established, heavy academic high school. A few NBA players have actually gone there, and obviously goes to Brown. So just a pretty all around incredible kid. And he actually stayed with the team last year, even though he was hurt, which I think says a lot about him. Especially in today's college basketball world, right? Hire that personal trainer, make sure you get your clips online, the whole thing, how that works now. He stayed with his Brown team last year, traveled with them and kind of cheered them on, which I think speaks a lot to who he is. A talented player. I think, he's 6'8", so a little bit of a tweener. And yeah, I think what ended up happening in Baylor, he struggled a little bit offensively. His first game in 2 years, year and a half. So you kind of, whatever, you're playing Baylor, and then USC, kind of the same stuff happened. It's a lot of, I think this offense is going to make a lot more sense as time goes on, but Henley kind of holding onto the ball a little bit, I thought, and the ball not ripping and moving around, and Nana just ending up kind of around that 3-point line a lot more than maybe he should have. Settled for some threes, wasn't a great 3-point shooter at Brown, and he was 0 for 3 against USC. And I mentioned it in my video, but he was getting those half late closeouts, right, where they clearly had it in the scout. Like if he gets the ball, close out just a little late and see if he really wants to shoot it, and kind of let him do it. And he kind of like fell into it. And there's some possessions where he's out on the 3-point line, just kind of handling the ball. They threw him the ball a few times as well at the end of the shot clock. And I'm like, that's probably not the guy. So I think some of that stuff's going to get ironed out with time. I did a presser. He was the player that did the presser after the game, which for how he offensively has played, I thought said a lot about him and his character. He just straight up owned it. He's like, I have nothing going. And he was in the gym the next morning posting stuff, 7 a.m. Other guys were posting his work he's putting in. I trust that he'll get some stuff figured out. I think it was bigger bodies as a tweener. You know, he's playing against NBA size on that front line at USC. So he's a little more of a unique player, can work at that high post area. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, he had 8 offensive rebounds against USC. I mean, that's pretty insane. At 6'8", that we're talking like generational crazy motor, getting involved. You know, those 8 possessions we talked about, obviously the Henley, the turnovers and all that. Great way to offset that, right? If you're throwing away possessions, is to get those possessions back with offensive rebounds. Nano is doing that, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. He's going to outwork everybody he plays. I can promise you that, and we'll see how that offense. I'd love to see some more getting him ball at the high post, maybe guys coming off screens with him, some dribble handoffs, pick and rolls where he's not popping, pick and rolls where he's ending closer to the basket. He's a great offensive rebounder. I think that'll help as well. So we'll see how the Nana stuff develops. Again, with the context of, 1, that's an exhibition game. 2, he hasn't really played a regular season real game in a year and a half, 2 years. So we'll see kind of what comes with Nana. And then, yeah, we got to talk about FA. So it's FA Demerol out of Turkey. He's 19-year-old pro, comes in, and USC didn't go great. He did not play a lot of minutes. The second he gets in foul trouble early, right? And against USC, if you're not on your P's and Q's, the size, the strength, the versatility, if you're I was just saying, he was a half step behind every time he was on the court. When you're a half step behind, you're going to reach your arm out and just because you don't know what to do. So he gets in foul trouble early. He'd come back in and then right away get another foul. And there was no flow. He had nothing going. Really talented guy, though. I think we could see a different version of him come Mountain West play. So we'll see, obviously, with GCU takes on New Mexico, what that looks like. 7 foot. He can handle the ball. He can run in transition. He's not your old school kind of like cinder blocks big guy. He can move and he can run around the floor. So we'll see how he develops. But keep in mind, he was having visa issues as well as like the other international guys. I know you guys have some international players you guys are really excited about as well. But yeah, he comes in super late, picks up his life, and moves halfway across the world a month and a half ago. So I think a little bit of time there as well to echo my macro sentiment from the USC game. Just a little bit of time to get these things rolling, I think will be really good. But a ton of talent on that front line, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that it's an exhibition, and these guys are so brand new to each other, so they're still trying to adapt. Yeah. But I think another element to Owasu Anane's game, too, is because he's that tweener, 6'8", 250, but he's elusive and can move. He's like going to stretch the defense out, right? And you stretch the defense out, you let guys like Brian Moore, Jaden Henley be able to penetrate more. And that's kind of where I'm going to take this conversation, because you talked about Henley a little bit. You did talk about Brian Moore. I don't think you said a whole lot about Brian Moore, but he was the mid-major 6th man of the year at Norfolk State. And that kid's another dude that has a motor. He can shoot. He's got kind of that 3-level score part of his game. He can finish around the rim. He can finish in the mid-range, and he's got a 3-point shot, right? But then on the flip side of that, your perimeter guys, right? I was a shooter. Dusty Stromer is an interesting guy to me. He came over from Gonzaga. I think I have that right. But GCU looks like a compelling team. It seems like they're really well put together, and they've got weapons not only on the inside and the mid-range, but they've also got guys on the perimeter. Can you talk about that backcourt a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, so Brian Moore, I think, is obviously where we got to start there. And yeah, I interviewed him the other day. He's an awesome kid. Yeah, he's from New York, and we had the conversation about the New York point guards, and GCU. I went to a practice, and they were just beating the heck. I mean, we're talking like it looked like a football practice. I mean, they were just going at it, and I was like, Brian, you're a little bit smaller. What the heck? And he goes, man, I'm from New York. Like, this is like, give me something tough, actually, if you want. Like, this is nothing. I love it. Like, he's a little bit undersized, obviously. He's got a really good game. I think the thing with Brian Moore, he's going to be really important. There wasn't a ton of flow against USC. He goes at such a unique pace, and he doesn't play slow. So it's not like, the guys like a Paul Pierce or a Luka Doncic, where they're just kind of like slower, and that works. It's just he goes at his speed, and he's patient. And that's going to be super helpful, I think, at times, to be able to get him the ball and just like everyone take a deep breath. And they really needed that against USC on Saturday. Like, everyone just take a deep breath, and they were kind of just always frantic. And I think the more you can get the ball in his hands, the better off they're going to be. He can spot up and shoot the three. He was a little over 38% last year at Norfolk. So, I could see him hitting a quite a bit of corner threes as well if the other guys are creating. And I think he's going to be more involved moving forward. I was kind of shocked to see against USC him not more involved. But he played really good against Baylor, but against USC 1 of 6, 2 assists. So he wasn't super involved. I think there's room to grow there, get him more involved. And then obviously Dusty, he is, to me, we talk about kind of X factors for this team.
Mm-hmm.
GCU went down by 15 early and it looked bad early. I mean, USC was beating them up. They were literally taking their arms and moving the big guys. I mean, it was like, oh boy, like you play a power 4 team. This is what happens. And Dusty hit a 3 and it literally, I just talked about kind of the depressurization. It felt like everything just like relaxed. It was like, man, we've got to make some threes to just let this breathe a little bit and let guys get into lanes because they were just getting mauled every time they took it in the paint. And I think Dusty's a good shooter at Gonzaga. He was average. He didn't shoot a whole lot. He didn't play a whole lot at Gonzaga, but he's got a ton of pedigree right out of Southern California, playing the highest level of high school basketball out there. So, yeah, Dusty's going to be really important. And I think, if you've got one good guard defender, GCU's got 3 good guards, I think, who can play and who offer completely different things, right? And so I think the optionality night to night, Baylor, obviously, Henley has a ton of success. Brian Moore did play well. Dusty got involved a little bit. I was shocked to just see those 3 not maybe grow on that and work together as this kind of 3-man sort of unique backcourt, bringing different things to the table. They can all handle the ball. Dusty's really good. He can come off stuff. So I'm shocked we didn't get more of those looks, just Dusty coming off screens and give him a mid-range jumper. Like the guy can shoot the ball and his release is insane. He had a end of the shot clock shot. There was a highlight. I believe it was Yesufu, who's going to be playing in the NBA next year. And Dusty just jumped up and it was almost like Dirk, like you're not going to block that. Right. So I think we'll see hopefully some more informal offense and some things get moving and get it a little easier. I think those guys provide the optionality. Bryce obviously had a ton of success in the WAC. I think it'll translate to the Mountain West. We'll see at what level, but I think he'll be able to move some chess pieces and get that kind of working together, that cohesive unit in the backcourt.
Some really good takes, man. We're again with Brennan Williams, Go Lopes Radio, Lopes Insider. Nick.
Yeah, Brennan wanted to pull up this comment from Jeremiah Langsfield. The comment reads,
"Yeah,
the pit greater than GCU student section arena." Now, we definitely respect Global Credit Union Arena for sure. I think it was Chad Baker Mazzara was interviewed after the game and said almost like a frat party. But no, that arena gets rowdy, man. I think the Lobos play the Lopes February 11th, 2026 in Phoenix. It's a Wednesday. Just curious, man, are UNM fans going to get some love if we go down there?
Here's the thing is it's a tough thing to explain because GCU is going to be so excited to have other fan bases travel. They didn't have that in the WAC, right? So I think they do crave that, and you guys will be welcomed with open arms. I'm dead serious. They want you guys to come out. The game day is an incredible experience. Obviously, our weather is top notch that time of the year, about as good as it gets anywhere in the nation. So just the game day, it hits a little bit different in Phoenix, and GCU does it really well. So the idea of having you guys out is going to be incredible. They're going to want as many Lobos fans, obviously, as what makes sense, right? Maybe we'll get allotted some tickets, whatever. But I think it'll be a unique thing for GCU fans. But obviously, when the game starts, without a doubt, the students are really, really good. At times they have their things that they do, right? So I think at times, they're singing Party in the USA when the game's going on. It's we can focus on the game a little bit, but they're engaged, guys. I mean, they're going to be rolling super deep, especially when we get to these Mountain West games. And they're going to be literally providing the havoc. I think where there's room for GCU Arena to grow a little bit is, quote, that other side. I talked about kind of why I started Go Lopes Radio. We don't have that tradition. You guys obviously have years of tradition for New Mexico basketball, and you can't buy that. You can't force it. You can't just try to get it right. That comes with time. It comes with experience. It comes with moments. I went to the Mountain West tournament the last 2 years. I actually had someone we knew between one of my friends who was Patino's assistant, little Patino's assistant. When we'd go to games, me and a few friends. Oh my gosh, it's just intoxicating. I mean, and it's the adult. I mean, everyone is in. Like, they are so engaged in the game. What's going on? They know the flow of the game, and so I think GCU, I don't know what you'd call them, the other fans, the non-student fans. I think there's room to grow there. But I'll tell you what, when that place is locked in, and there was a few times where GCU was kind of trying to sneak in the back door against USC at the end, it gets loud, very, very loud, and it's almost kind of like on top of you. Chad Baker-Mazara might have had one of the best nights of his life. He didn't play well, but every song would come on, and timeouts, he's dancing. He was having literally the time of his life. If you guys know anything about him, legendary player in college basketball, and he's always entertaining. So he had a great time, though. It was funny watching him. He loved it, but it's a good environment. I'm not going to come on here and say any takes or ranking or anything like that. I'll just say it's an awesome environment, and you guys just got to come out and experience it. And I'll be very intrigued to hear you guys' feedback.
Well, you're welcome with open arms to come visit us here at the pit too. I'm sure you'll make your way.
Trip's already booked, by the way, guys. Trip's
good
booked.
Deal. We'll have to link up. We'll do previews, recaps, you name it. We got you covered.
Let's do it.
Hino Kine, GCU and UNM is going to be a great future rivalry. You and I talked about that like right before we jumped on. I think GCU was such a huge addition to the Mountain West prior to what's going to happen next year with everything going on. But I'll leave you with this, right? Like we had a chance to get Jamie Boggs on our podcast or live stream a few months ago, and it's really apparent that not only is the athletic department, but the student base, and I think the overall general Phoenix fan base is growing enough so to where I think there were some local TV networks that invested some time and some planning programming into kind of featuring games on local TV in the Phoenix area. That's huge, man. That's huge for the program. So, I mean, just from that kind of everything in a holistic point of view, I mean, how do you feel right now as a GCU fan, kind of like the trajectory that this program and this university is on? It's exciting times, and I feel like it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger. So your perspective as a fan, how are you feeling about where GCU is headed?
Yeah, it's funny. In my article after Mountain West Media Day, I wrote a little bit about this, and we have a joke within our friends, right? Every time GCU's on any sort of network, we can never figure out what they're going with, right? It's like you can always say New Mexico or some version of that, and it makes sense, right? UNM when on the score bug. In GCU, it's like every network has something different, and it just looks so bad. It's like just the worst. It's like some version of like Grand Canyon something, and it's like we need to figure that out. So that's always the joke we have, and we're going to hope we get that figured out this year, and we just get a solid score bug name when we go on some of these, especially national TV networks. But I was shocked at Media Day. Like, GCU is not there is an incredible level of respect, and the weirdness of some of the stuff that's happening over next year. I didn't feel any of that. Like, there was no drama or tension. Dutcher spoke about GCU being in there. Pastner spoke about it. And, there's a lot of excitement for GCU, I think, being in the Mountain West this year. And again, maybe a little bit more drama a few months ago. Some of that stuff settled, but I'm excited. I mean, it really is a little bit of a sleeping giant. There's no shame now. We don't have to be weird about it. Like, GCU has money to invest, just across the board and whatever that might be. We know that you got to have it to succeed in any sort of college sports, right? It's very apparent. I mean, look at this last week and a half, 2 weeks of college football coaches and buyouts. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, can we rally the money in 24 hours to fire this guy? It's going to cost us $100 million to get rid of this staff and get a new one. So GCU's got the money to invest in their programs, the facilities, the players, all of it. And I think it's only just going to improve. I think, it's going to be great to get some exposure. You mentioned the local deal. That's going to be massive, getting into households, getting into just bars in Phoenix, like ASU, and it's massive, and it's got massive tentacles here in the Valley. And it's going to take a little bit for GCU to kind of chip away at that, but they've just got to be out and about. We get some games on CBS Sports Network this year with the Mountain West deal. We'll see what that deal looks like moving forward, but really good exposure for the university. I think they're ready to pop. Obviously, like we said, a ton of success in the WAC. We'll see how that translates to the Mountain West. But, there's definitely a scenario where they have a lot of success in the Mountain West. They catch some people off guard. Some people are going to come to GCU Arena and not know or not be ready for it and be a little bit shocked. And it's going to be a tougher place to play probably than people think. And man, it's definitely an exciting time. I think I don't want to say the concern, but I talked about the newness of the guys, right? And all that other stuff is super fun. It's a good time. It's lots of purple, but it's got to work on the court, and it's got to all start there and be centered around that. And we'll see how all that kind of gels together. But I'm optimistic and excited to kind of see this team continue to kind of come together.
Well, we're happy to have you on the Pit Press Live. We'll be more than glad to get you back on to kind of check in throughout the season, check in on GCU. And I resonate with your statements, man. I think there's a lot of newness, not just within the Lopes program, but within the whole Mountain West. And even with UNM, we don't have a single returning player or coach or trainer or strength trainer in the program. So it's just something we're going to have to adapt to. But again, Brendan, thanks for agreeing to come on the show with us tonight. Any last comments for any Lopes fans or any Lobo fans that are watching?
Yeah, I mean, first game next Monday, IPFW. And, I think the message for Lopes fans, I said this in my article as well, is like, you want this thing to be good. There's no more like, do I get a free t-shirt or do I get no, we got to go buy t-shirts. We've got to go buy GCU polos. We've got to buy season tickets. No more just seeing if we can get a ticket and get in, right? We've got this is real. This is serious. We've got to invest, I think, as fans. And so a little bit of like a call to action there. Like if we want that stage, we've got to invest and spend in it as well as fans. And then, I mean, obviously a massive thank you to you guys and just, the support, obviously having me on and we love talking GCU and telling people about it. But I would just say outside of that, like Mountain West people, just like keep an eye on this team. Maybe watch a game if you've got a free night. It's a great, just random watch to, see the crowd. They'll have a really good road game at St. Louis. I'd encourage you guys to watch that. And the non-con playing in the Acrisure Classic in Palm Springs as well. That's around Thanksgiving. And then obviously Mountain West play starts. But I'd encourage you, if you're, a UNM fan, Mountain West fan, whatever that might be, tune into a game, just throw it on and watch for a half. Cause you can get a little bit used to GCU and the experience and get familiar with the team. So yeah, really excited. This, we're 6 days out and this is happening.
It is exciting times. I'm Eric Moulton, your host of the Pit Press. Brendan, thanks again for joining. We'll check in with you at some point in the very near future. Good luck on your season. Good luck covering the program. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And then after we get back from the break, we'll be joined by Steve Ivey, Colorado State Insider.
Thanks, guys.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe, we're proud to stand with the survivors, the fighters, and the families who inspire us every single day. And while we honor their strength, we're also helping you with the strength to save with special dealer offers. Like a new Ford F-150 XLT, save with 3.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new Ford Bronco Sport, lease for just $399 a month at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I'm your host, Eric Bolton, joined by co-host Nick Nunez. Nick, what'd you think about Brennan, man? He seems super stoked about basketball season getting ready to tip off.
I think the world of him, man. I think he's one of the best guys that covers the Mountain West. He puts a lot into it. He really does. If you go check out his stuff at Lopes Radio, his X page, his YouTube page, he puts a lot of work into his coverage of GCU men's basketball. And like you shared with him and some of our commenters here tonight, like Keno Keeney, just can't wait for the rivalry between GCU and UNM to develop this season, Eric.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep our guest waiting any longer. He's been backstage for the last, 10, 15 minutes. I know I've been wanting to get him on our show for a long time, but he's a busy guy covering CSU athletics. So without further ado, joining us this evening at Swole Cracker College Hoops, CSU insider Steve Ivey. Sir, thanks for joining us on the Pit Press Live.
Eric and Nick, thank you so much for having me. As you can see, I'm in Albuquerque tonight. I got the pit in the background, man. So I had to honor you guys. You guys do such a great job, but thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk CSU men's basketball and talk Mountain West hoops with you.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on. We're just going to jump right into it, man. You went all the way out to watch CSU play in an exhibition against Creighton. What was your knee-jerk reaction, kind of just your macro view, first look at the team?
I've seen a lot of them in practice, Eric. I've been to probably 10 practices, so I've had a chance to get a pretty good feel for them. And it was a good first public effort, I thought, with the team that's relatively new. New Mexico fans are when they see this team, you're gonna realize we only have 3 guys back that played in the rotation last year. 1 starter, Rashawn Mbemba, 2 backup bigs, Kyle Jorgensen and Nikola Joppa. We had a couple of redshirt freshmen come back that didn't play last year, and then added 6 guys out of the portal and 2 guys out of high school. So it's a relatively new program, and they've hit the ground running. The ball flowed really well. The ball movement was good. Of course, CSU known for a really precise offense where the ball moves and the ball is shared. And they opened the game really, really well. Rashawn Mbemba was scoring inside. And they played a good first half. They were actually led for the majority of the first half against Creighton, who's top 25 team in the preseason, picked 3rd in the Big East. So good squad. Rams were looking decent, and then Mbemba got in foul trouble, and then one of the other key players, who I'll talk about, Josh Pasquarelli, got in foul trouble, and they didn't. Things slipped in the second half. Rams went down by 9 early, and then the game went back and forth, probably anywhere from 3 to 9 points most of the second half. And they hung in there well. They just couldn't quite get back into it, and a lot of that driven by Mbemba playing only 12 minutes. So, but all in all, a solid performance. I had Coach Farouk Manesh on my live stream on Monday morning, and we talked about it. And they scheduled Creighton for a reason. Number 1, a good team and a good program. Number 2, on the road in a 17,000 seat arena. Some of our players are up transfers. Some of our players are down transfers that we got in the portal. And a lot of the guys had never played in an arena that big in front of a crowd that big. And so that was the other major purpose of scheduling that game. So all in all, he was real happy. And I think from a fan perspective, I thought things went reasonably well.
Yeah, well, very similar to UNM's roster turnover. CSU also took a big hit, right? Losing a guy like Nick Clifford is basically impossible to replace. But then losing head coach Niko Medved and being able to get Ali Farekmanish coming in, who's been a part of the program for 5 or 6 years? Maybe it's longer than that.
7.
How long? I mean, how do you feel he's been able to kind of take on that role? I'm sure there's a lot of carryover from the culture that Niko Medved was able to kind of thread in there, but what's your general take on how things have been going with Ali in control?
it's his first job as a head coach. He was with Nico for 7 years at CSU, a year at Drake. Before that, he was with Tim Miles in Nebraska. So he comes from that Miles Medved coaching tree. He also played at Northern Iowa. Everybody knows that about the shot he made, but he played for a great coach in Ben Jacobson as well. So he's the son of a coach. His mom, Cindy Frederick, was a Division I volleyball coach at a lot of major universities, Iowa, Washington State, UNLV. So he comes from a coaching background, and he's very much the transition. He was the only logical choice. There were a lot of people interested in the CSU job, and I don't need to mention any of the names, but Ali was the only logical choice, and he hit the ground running. I think he showed that he was able, unfortunately, you mentioned the loss of Neek Clifford, but they lost 3 other starters. One who was a senior out of eligibility, Jalen Lake, who was a great 4-year player, not a superstar, but 10-point-a-game kind of guy and an everyday kind of guy. But the 2 guys that they lost in the portal, Kyan Evans, they lost to the University of North Carolina, had a really good sophomore year. And they had Jalen Crocker Johnson last year starting at the 4, who transferred and went with Nico up to Minnesota. And so Ali had to get busy right away in the portal, and he showed his stuff right away. He brought in 6 pretty good players. And if you look at, everybody ranks how teams did in the portal differently, but 247 Recruiting had CSU's portal classes the best in the Mountain West. Other people have people like UNLV at the top. Other people have other schools up there as well. But he went and got 6 good players and managed to retain 3 players from last year's team. And so he hit the ground running, and the whole summer has been built around, getting the team to understand what it's like to play in this offense. It's an interesting offense because you have to learn that the best way you're going to get the way you're going to score is by sharing the ball, by passing the ball, by making your teammates, getting into open places, cutting, moving, screening. It's a very precise offense, and they spent most of the summer trying to figure out how to make that happen. And like I said, he's hit the ground running, and they're coming along pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't realize. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No worries. Steve, wanted to kind of ask you a little bit, from the perspective of a Lobo fan. I think CSU men's basketball, I think about some of the guys that they've put into the NBA, David Roddy, Isaiah Stevens, Neek Clifford, obviously the success he's having.
Don't forget John Tonji, who went to Wisconsin for a year, but 4 years at CSU, a day at UNM, right?
Yeah, 36 hours.
We don't talk about him here in Albuquerque. No, I'm kidding. No, yeah. Yeah, congratulations to him too. Anyway, I think of those guys, but you mentioned that offense that CSU ran last year under Nico Medved. I had the chance to see it when the Lobos took on CSU this year in the pit. And man, that's the thing that stood out to me was the ball movement. But tell us, with this group of guys that are coming back, you mentioned some of the returners. Memba started last year for CSU. Who do you think are going to be the big playmakers for the Rams this season?
So Bemba will be the starter. He'll be the big, and looks better. He looked good against Creighton when he wasn't fouling. It's just one of those days, and they called a couple of soft ones on him as well. But he'll be the starter and then the other guys will all be guys that are new to the program. I think in the starting lineup, 3 guys. Let's see. 2 guys who are down transfers. The first one I'll mention is Brandon Recksteiner, who is a guard who transferred from Virginia Tech. Highly ranked player in the class of 2024, 115th ranked prep roughly. Ranked ahead of guys like Kyan Evans, ranked ahead of guys like B.J. Davis at San Diego State. So highly ranked. Struggled a little bit at Virginia Tech. Was in an offense that wasn't necessarily good for him, but you'll see him as he's a leader. Interestingly enough, his dad is a guy named Scott Steiner. Those of you who are WWE people, Scott Steiner, big time professional wrestler. Brandon is a weight room kid. He's 6'1" and 195 pounds. He's built like a rock, and he's a good player. The other guard will be a guy named Josh Pasquarelli. Josh is an up transfer. He played for Marist. 6'3", 195, all MEAC, a little smaller conference, but all MEAC. He was also all district NABC, so they do district All-American teams. He was all district in New York with a lot of guys from places like St. John's and Syracuse. So very, very good player, very good shooter. He shot 40% from three last year, was shooting 45% until the last 4 games. But he'll be a starter. The other small forward, guy named Jevin Muniz, who transferred from Florida Gulf Coast, was forced into a funny position of having to play point guard last year. And he's he's 6'6", about 215 pounds. Very good connector. He can shoot, he can pass, he can rebound, he can defend. He's just one of those guys, kind of an everyday guy you need in the lineup. He can score. He started his career at Delaware State. In his 3rd or 4th game as a freshman at the Division I level, he played UConn and had 23 points against him. So he's had some pretty big games. He'll be a nice player. And then at the 4, it looks like it's going to be a kid who named Carey Booth, who transferred from Illinois. Didn't really do much with Illinois last year as a sophomore. The year before, he was at Notre Dame. Started in the ACC. Averaged about 7 points and 5 rebounds in about 20 minutes, was the 55th ranked recruit out of the class of 2024. So very highly recruited player. 6'10", 220, son of Calvin Booth, who played in the NBA, former general manager of the Nuggets. So he looks like he's going to start too. So that's kind of how it looks, Nick. 4 guys, 4 transfers out of the portal with Mbemba, and then it's a very deep team too.
For sure. Eric.
I'm having a little bit of audio issues. Why don't you go ahead and ask some questions? I'm just trying to get my headphones set.
Yeah, for sure. So, Steve, I know you've kind of broken down the Creighton game over this weekend. It seems like Mbemba got in foul trouble, only 12 minutes. But, you also kind of I think the other big was in foul trouble, too. It's a game where CSU showed some fight in it. What was kind of your biggest takeaway?
I was fine. The ball movement was good. It was better in the first half. The ball got a little sticky in the second half. But the bigs were scoring inside and out in the first half when they didn't have the foul trouble. Mbemba and Booth scored the first 6 points. Kyle Jorgensen, 6'9", 230, came in off the bench. And Mbemba, he's Mbemba's sub. He was a sub last year, started a few games when Rashawn was hurt. And he hit threes. He made 3 out of 4 threes. And so he played well. He ended up with 12 points, but the guards really struggled shooting. And that was the theme for the whole game. And some of the shot selection was a little marginal. Some of the shot selection was good and they were just missing. But the difference in the game was basically Creighton 10 for 27 from 3, CSU 5 for 27 from 3, and that's 15 points left right there. It was a pretty even game other than that, and a little bit on the boards as well. CSU got beat a little bit on the boards. Some of that was they missed more shots, more opportunities for Creighton for defensive rebounds, but it wasn't this feeling like they were overmatched. It was feeling like this is a new team trying to figure out a way to play together.
Yeah. Steve, one more from me. I know you had Jeff Grammer on your show a couple weeks ago, and, I think you've probably had the chance to at least follow some coverage of Lobo basketball. We got a brand new team this year, 14 new guys, brand new coaching staff with Eric Olin. But kind of based on your bird's eye view of UNM, what do you think of the Lobos this year?
This is going to be really, really interesting, Nick, because, here we have our 2 programs. You had the regular season champs, the most consistent team in the Mountain West last year. CSU got it going the second half, won the Mountain West Conference tournament. So we're coming from pretty good places, both of us, and we both have very new rosters. Like I said, we maintained 3 players and then and actually 5 with the 2 red shirts. You guys are brand new. There's a lot of respect, I think, for your coach. Eric Olin was a well sought after coach, and it's going to be a different style of play for the Lobos. If you listen to Grammer, you listen to anybody, it's not the high pick and roll Nelly Jr., Joseph Donovan Dent show this year. It's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of passing and a lot of 3-point shooting, and they're not afraid. That's been the success of where Olin came from. They shoot a lot of threes and they make a lot of threes, and he's got a formula defensively and a formula offensively that worked at UC San Diego. It's just a matter of, is that roster going to come together? I am going to point out something else interesting. I had Ali on my show this week on Monday, and I have a co-host, and my co-host asked him a really good question after we talked about what Ali learned about his team against when they played Creighton. My co-host asked him, "What did you learn about yourself?" And Ali talked about how he's got to get better in terms of incorporating his staff. He's got a good staff. He brought in Dave Pilipovich from New Mexico, as you know, he formerly Air Force head coach. He kept two coaches from Nico's staff, but he said, we have to get better. I have to get better in terms of how we figure out what we're doing in timeouts. Olin doesn't necessarily have that problem. He's got the experience as a head coach, so he's going to hit the ground running as a head coach. Ali's got a little bit of stuff to sort out, but I think I think New Mexico is going to be a very, very interesting team, and of course you've got the great home court advantage.
For sure, Eric.
Hey, Steve, I don't know if you guys talked about just personnel, but one guy that kind of lit up my interest when he decided to transfer to CSU was Josh Pasquarelli, and what he was able to do at Marist and leading his team in scoring. I think he averaged right around 16 points per game, but he's another guy that could be a problem to deal with in the Mountain West. What can you tell us about Josh, and how has he been able to adapt to Frank Manish's program?
He's a scorer for sure. He's a shooter. Roughly 40% last year from three. He is really good about coming off of ball screens, and that's a lot of CSU's offense. There's a lot of big set and ball screens. I talk about Mbemba. Mbemba's greatest strength is he sets the biggest screens in the Mountain West, and so he frees up a lot of perimeter shooting. Pasquarelli is figuring out his spots in the offense. I think that the trickiest part, I use the example Kyan Evans. Once Kyan figured out where his spots were last year and where his opportunities were, he started scoring. Pasquarelli, it'll be the same kind of thing. It'll take him a little bit time. He looks good in practice. Creighton looked good, looked like he's, maybe not quite sure. And so he only shot, I think, 1 for 5, 1 for 6 on his threes and had some good open looks. But he'll get there, and I think he's going to be the leading scorer, Eric. I think he's the most gifted scorer that CSU has.
Yeah, another guy that stands out to me, a guy who's a little bit more well-traveled. Season started his freshman year at Notre Dame and then transferred to Illinois in Kerry Booth, a 6'10" forward/center. I feel like, kind of another one of those transfer downs that you just alluded to, but he's another guy that I think could probably have an instant impact at Moby, right? And really be one of those kind of true bigs that has a case to be reckoned with in the Mountain West. What can you say about him?
He's the most athletic on the CSU roster, 6'10", 220. He's put on a little bit of weight, needs to get a little bit stronger. I think, he's young. He was 17 years old when he went to Notre Dame. He's only 19, maybe just turned 20. He was light. He's up to 220 pounds, but he still needs to get a little bit stronger. He had 9 points and 9 rebounds against Creighton. He was fine. One of the things about Carey is he's probably a better perimeter player than an inside player, and he's learning how to play on the inside. If he gets hot, he can be as good a three-point shooter as there is, and I've seen him win. CSU has some pretty good shooters. I've seen Carey win some of the three-point shooting drills, and so I think you'll like his athleticism. He can run the floor. He can rebound. He can block shots as well. And like I said, he averaged 7 and 5 in about 20 minutes with Notre Dame in the ACC, and had some double-doubles in the ACC as a freshman. He's a better player now, and he's going to be in an offense that'll be able. Illinois didn't work out for him. He really didn't get much floor time last year at Illinois. It was pretty much a waste. He's going to get a chance at CSU. And, I also have to mention, we have another guy at CSU who transferred from VMI who's a Lithuanian, a guy named Augie Kiadulis. Augie's going to play a lot as well. Augie didn't play against Creighton. Augie was injured. CSU was missing 2 players for Creighton. One was a freshman guard, Jojo McIver, who's probably going to get some time. Not starting, obviously, but he has a chance to get some minutes. Kiadulis will be significant in terms of minutes. He'll play. He's kind of a 3-4. He can score inside. 6'8", 230. Typical Euro. You guys have Euros. You'll get to see how they know how to play the game. They set screens. They pass the ball. They handle the ball well. And the big guys especially. And so Kiadulis is a classic Lithuanian player, and he'll be an integral part of the CSU team this year.
I look at CSU in a similar way that I view UNM right now. Just about every podcast or written piece by mid-major basketball or anyone who can follow the Mountain West and actually knows what they're talking about kind of has the San Diego State as the premier team program in the conference. And then you have some other programs, maybe like a UNLV or a GCU. And then you kind of have the rest, right? And part of the rest is a little bit unknown because of the roster turnover. And CSU and UNM are kind of in that conversation right now with the rest. I don't know where CSU got picked in the preseason polls for the Mountain West, but
tied for 7th with Nevada in that poll. But you'll see them anywhere from 4th to 7th in a lot of the analytics. Eric, I talked a little bit with Grammer about this. I think San Diego State is the clear-cut favorite, but I don't think it's a done deal with them. They have some things they've got to figure out. And I talked with Jeff about it. They lost 10 games on the road in the last 2 years. They have not been a good road team, and all those guys that are coming back have not had a lot of success on the road. You look at those guys last year; they won in overtime at Air Force, barely beat Wyoming. And so, they have issues, and it could come down to health as well. None of those guys have played. You talk about the great players they have. None of them have looked good for a full season in the Mountain West. Reese Waters, Magoon Gwath, Miles Bird. They're all great players, but let's see if they can make it the whole season.
Yeah, on paper, they're great.
Yeah, on paper they're great. The team, I have to say, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. The week before I was in Omaha, I was visiting my daughter in Utah, and I saw Utah State scrimmage. I saw an exhibition game against Seattle, and I came away very impressed with Utah State. I think they're going to compete at the top. I really do, and I think they're a clear-cut second-place team and with a chance to compete for first. They brought back 4 guys from last year's team: Mason Falslev, Drake Allen, Carson Templin, and Tucker Anderson. Added some guys out of the portal that I think are good. But the one thing I noticed with Utah State last year, they kind of faded as the season went on, and a lot of people thought it was because people figured out their defense. I think it's because they got tired. They are bigger this year. They've been in the weight room, and they looked really good. And I mean good. And so I look a lot at that at teams and how physical they might be. Utah State, I think, will be very, very competitive physically this year, and I think they have a lot of talent. But the rest of after those 2, I think 3 through 8 are up for grabs, and I think UNM could finish anywhere from 3rd to 8th. I think CSU could as well.
Yeah, Nick.
No, Steve, it's been a pleasure speaking with you here tonight. We're speaking with Steve Ivey of Crackers College Hoops, CSU basketball insider. Steve, I think CSU opens up next week. All games start next week. Tell us a little bit about CSU's non-conference schedule and the challenges they'll face before conference play.
We have the first 3 games are in Moby Arena. We open with Incarnate Word out of Texas on Monday, like pretty much everybody. The following Sunday, we have a decent team that's a kind of a sleeper team, Omaha, who won the Summit League last year, and they're picked to finish 2nd, I believe, preseason. And those are the teams you worry about. They come off a conference. They come in thinking they're good because they were good. They finished last year really, really well. And so Omaha, the 2nd team, and then the 3rd team is the University of Denver. picked to finish near the bottom of the Summit League. And then CSU's first test will be in their fourth game. They travel to play Loyola of Chicago. We know about Loyola a few years ago being a Final Four team. They're in the A10 now. They're expected, some people have them as high as, I've seen them as high in the Sports Illustrated Kevin Sweeney picks. They're picked higher than CSU. They're picked somewhere around 60th or 65th in the country. That'll be a good road test right away for CSU. That actually, they're picked 60 or 65. That has a potential to be a quad one game, and so that'll be good. Then they come back home, and I can't remember who they play. And then it's the real core of the season is the battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas, the holiday tournament, the MTE, where they open with Virginia Tech, who's expected to be improved. They're expected to be a top 75 team, so you're looking at a quad two game there. It's also where Brandon Rechsteiner, our starting point guard, played, so that'll be a little bit of a revenge game. And if they beat Virginia Tech, there's a good chance they'll play St. Mary's. They'll play the winner of St. Mary's or Wichita State. Hopefully it'll be St. Mary's. St. Mary's, a perennial top 50 program. That's a quad one. Win that game, you got a shot at most likely VCU or Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt would be a quad one, most likely. VCU, maybe a quad two, probably a quad two. So that's the core of the schedule you're looking at when you have Loyola and then those three games. You're probably looking at 3 quad two games and a quad one, or two quad twos and 2 quad ones. So that's the primary strength of the schedule. Come back home, play Colorado at home this year, which will be a nice, always a nice rivalry game. And some of the others are more the nondescript lower conference teams. I think we get we get Cal Poly as the third game of the year, I think. So it's the battle for Atlantis is going to be the critical part for CSU.
One more for me, Steve. Last question for me. From a basketball identity standpoint, Nico Medved, slow it down, don't play with a lot of tempo, grind out possessions, rebound the basketball. Do you think Ali Farouk-Manesh with a brand new team is going to have kind of the same identity this season?
I think so, Nick. I don't see many changes. The hardest part, every coach usually says, oh, we want to play fast. And then the reality is you better be a great rebounding team and a great defensive team to be able to play fast. And not just good, you have to be great. You have to take a lot of chances as well. And so I think CSU will be more the, let's get a game into the half court. Let's win in the defensive end on the half court by playing good, sound, fundamental defense. And then the Medved offense was really designed to score early. If you could push the ball and score in the first 8 seconds, do it. If you didn't score in the first 8 seconds, you're gonna go 20 to 25 seconds into the clock and make the other team work their butt off. And I think of the offense as kind of I compare it to a good running game in football. They're setting a lot of big screens on the perimeter and knocking guys around, and that wears teams down over the course of a game. So, Nick, to answer your question, I think it'll be much more of a half-court focused score.
Sure. Thank you, Steve or Eric.
Hey, Steve, I got one more question for you, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of plug your site, your podcast, let people know, our people that are tuning into the Pit Press that follow us that might not follow you, to give you a follow and find out where to subscribe. But I'm going to go back to another personnel question. Brandon Reichsteiner.
Yeah.
I know that we talked about Josh Pasquarelli, and you had a lot of high praise for him, even alluding to him possibly being the leading scorer of the team. But Reichsteiner had 14 points in that exhibition game, and he comes with a little bit more pedigree, like you talked about. But what's his ceiling look like? I know that he probably didn't have a ton of success at Virginia Tech, but now he's a bit of a transfer down. What's the ceiling for him look like?
It's hard to say, because I think his strengths, he can shoot. There's no doubt he's a better shooter than, he shot like 29% at Virginia Tech, and he was a turnover machine. But When I first talked to Ali about him, Ali was excited because he said he was in a bad offense. He can play on the ball, he can play off the ball, but his strength, ultimately, Brandon's strength is his leadership. He will be a leader on the floor. He will play physically. He didn't turn the ball over against Creighton. He only had, I think, one turnover. So he played close to 30 minutes and didn't turn the ball over. Didn't shoot it. He had 14 points. Didn't shoot it particularly well. I think he's 1 for 9 on his threes. He's a better shooter than that. But I think his leadership isn't just on the court; it's off the court. I had a summer show I did with the strength and conditioning coach, and he said this year's team is ahead of last year's team, which had a pretty good season, was a pretty physical team. This year's team was even better in the weight room in terms of other things in strength and conditioning. Brandon is an absolute leader in terms of the weight room. When you see him, you will go, holy moly! I understand why. I can see his dad was a wrestler. So I think his ceiling will be driven mostly by his leadership, Eric. I think that's where he's going to be critical, and he'll score 10 points a game, and he'll get 3 assists, 4 assists a game. But it's ultimately how's he going to lead the team.
Awesome. Well, Steve, we appreciate you jumping on and agreeing to doing this joint show. I know that you're streaming on your Twitter account right now too, but for those that are following us here on the Pit Press, do you want to let our followers and viewers know where they can find you and maybe plug your YouTube channel or even just your Twitter account?
You bet. Thank you. You can find me on X at Swollcracker, SWOLLCRACKER. Don't ask me the origin of that name. It takes me 5 minutes to explain it. But and then on YouTube at Crackers College Hoops. So you can find me there. I do probably about 5 live streams a week. I try and do like you guys. I think live is the best way to go. I like to have interaction with my audiences, comments, have some fun. And so I do about 5 live streams a week during the season. I do a regular Monday morning show. I have a great co-host. I do a Thursday evening show. I'll bring on people that I do by myself. I do post-game shows. And then I do a weekly Mountain West show as well with Tom Moser, who I know you've had on. I don't know if you're going to have him on again this year. But
we will.
Tom and I are going to get the show rolling. He's going to come on my stream on Thursday night. We're going to talk about the non-conference around the Mountain West, talk about some of the key games, and talk about some of the games. We're trying to figure out our schedule of when we're going to open it. Most likely, the season opens on the 3rd. We're probably going to do our first post-game on the 8th, and I think it was going to be a Boise State game. The following weekend, I said, Tom, we need to do the New Mexico State game, and I think he's out of town, and I don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but that's one we really, really wanted to do, and we'll figure out our schedule. We'll seek input from people, but we'll do some New Mexico games, and we always have fun with the New Mexico audiences. So I don't just I do mostly, 80% of what I do is Colorado State. But the other 20%, I try and focus on the Mountain West, and I have a great co-host with Tom. So it's a fun thing. You guys are doing great with your stuff. I think we have some great communities in our respective cities and universities that we follow. You had Brennan on. I had him on my show 2 weeks ago. I had a young man named Jason Kelly on from UNLV about a week ago, and he's great. It's going to be fun this year getting this thing going and getting to know all you guys and following up with you, because it's the last year for us in the Mountain West, which is sad. It's very bittersweet, because the one school that I hate to say goodbye to is New Mexico. If you watched my show with Grammer, I saw my first UNM game in 1978 at Arizona when I was in grad school. I saw that great 78 team with Michael Cooper. And so I've always liked New Mexico, and it's going to be sad. And hopefully Ali and Eric will figure out a way to schedule some non-con stuff.
Well, it's not over yet. It's just beginning, but we'll gladly have you back on our show. Maybe we'll jump on yours, and we'll continue to talk Mountain West hoops all season long. And if you need someone to talk about UNM and New Mexico State, don't hesitate to reach out.
There you go. Eric, thank you so much. Nick, thank you so much. I've been following you guys for a while. You guys do fantastic work, and I'm glad you're getting a great football season too.
Well, we appreciate it, Steve. We'll be in contact soon. We're going to take a quick commercial break, let Steve go. But Nick and I will be right back to just kind of wrap up the show. Thanks for tuning in.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe, we're proud to stand with the survivors, the fighters, and the families who inspire us every single day. And while we honor their strength, we're also helping you with the strength to save with special dealer offers. Like a new Ford F-150 XLT, save with 3.9% APR financing for 72 months. Or a new Ford Bronco Sport, lease for just $399 a month at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Sorry, Nick, I had to cut it short there real quick, but I wanted to wrap up the show. I talked to you and your dad about this. I think it's important that we reach out to more of people like us around the Mountain West that cover their teams, that are somewhat fans, but also covered objectively. Wanted to get your opinion on not only Steve, but just tonight's guest and your overall excitement with the tip-off of the new season.
It's awesome, man. No, I really appreciate the opportunity to network with other guys that cover the Mountain West, like Steve Ivey covering CSU basketball and Brennan Williams covering GCU Lopes basketball. Again, Eric, just two guys that invest a ton in what they do. You know, a lot of us, we don't get paid, if at all, to do this kind of work. We do it because we love covering Mountain West basketball. So to have two guys on that are very knowledgeable about their respective programs, I don't want to be long-winded, Eric. I just can't wait for the games to start, man. They start officially next week.
I'm right there with you. And I'm going to go to some of the comments because I know that we had a few people throwing in some comments. Where am I at right here? Right. Basketball season is here. Yahoo, Eric Markham, avid listener. Let's see. John Romero, another guy that tunes in on a regular basis. NMSU Aggies feasted on barbecue GCU antelope for years. Lobos hopefully follow that hoop history as well. And then John Romero, kind of going back to the Lobo basketball game. Lobo B-ball was a bit shaky shooting the rack against Washington State. They produced more bricks than a Mason building and a 10-foot wall. Where else are we at here? I already showed Keenan's. David Frescus, love me some Pit Press. And then Ronnie Chavez. Ronnie, I think Steve answered your question in his last statement when he kind of fell in love with the Lobos from watching them at Arizona in do you remember the year, Nick? 1976? Did I get that right?
78, I think, because he referenced Michael Cooper, and that was his year with Automatic Marvin Johnson and all those guys. But yeah, man, he did answer that.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else. Nick, I know that you and your dad have a guest or two possibly lined up for tomorrow evening. Do you want to let the listeners or the viewers know what you guys got lined up?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be doing a Huddle Up episode. Once again, Huddle Up is a podcast about New Mexico high school football. We have on New Mexico high school football players and coaches to share their experiences throughout the season. Tomorrow, we will be joined by Joey Fernandez, head football coach at St. Mike's, the Horsemen on a 29-game winning streak. I'm pretty sure I'm getting that right, Eric. They're the perennial favorite in Class 3A, chasing their third straight state championship. So looking forward to speaking with Coach Fernandez. Tune in tomorrow, 8 p.m. on the Pit Press Live.
And then for programming the rest of the week, I don't know if we have anything planned Thursday just yet, but we also plan to get on Mike Cooper from the UNLV, the Standard. He covers UNLV athletics. We want to get his take, kind of preview the UNLV football game on Saturday. So we might have a short preview there, but more to come on that. We'll get a notice out before we go live there. But Nick, any final thoughts before we wrap it all up?
No, man, Lobo basketball in action, exhibition game Thursday, 7 p.m. We will be there covering it. And yeah, looking forward to seeing this team play in person, Eric. I encourage Lobo fans. I know it's just an exhibition. Get out there. Everybody is eager to see what this team is going to look like. They put Washington State in their rearview mirror. So let's get out there and check out some Lobo basketball.
Yep. For Nick Nunez, I'm Eric Moulton, and you've been watching the Pit Press Live.